I can see call for and Jumoke are already in the audience for today. So they've already said the meeting is going to be recorded. So I'll start by quickly introducing myself. My name is Karim Kiato, and I'm going to be the moderator for this session. And we are going to be joined by three amazing women working in tech and engineering. And I'm going to introduce them shortly after we hear a message from Flavilla, who is not present with us today, but has a message for all of us. So Marie, who is also from GTA Black Women in Tech, is going to be driving everything from the back office, if you like, but she's very much here with us. So Marie, do you want to take it away?
Hello everyone, welcome to GTA Black Community Tech Event. I'm so excited to have you here and thank you so much for coming and for this talk and for this event. I'm going to give you a short presentation before the show starts so you can really understand what's going on at GTA Black Community Tech before we get started. And I love this photo which really summarizes what we've accomplished in 2022, and so much magic is expected for 2023, from doing an art collection, creating an NFT collection, and obviously putting Black women on the limelight, creating our own book, having events, and laughing together and connected together, which is super exciting. So if you are new to GTA Black Women Tech, Black Women Tech vision is very simple. We are here to normalize Black female excellence. And as our community grows across the world, we're so excited to say that we're on a mission to achieve this vision. I'm super excited about that. I think it's also good to look at our numbers. I like to show before and after, but at the end of 2021, we had 3,000 just on LinkedIn. Now we just passed 12,000. Actually, we just passed. We are over 12,000 LinkedIn followers across all the platforms as well. That's just on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and TikTok, Instagram, and yes, I think that's enough going on. So yes, we do events every month. We're taking breaks sometimes just to make sure that we can realign to offer what you are after, which is super key. So our events will always be free, except for the festival, but all events will be free. And please do tell everybody to join, and everybody is welcome, which is super key. I think also interesting in terms of who you can find in our community. If you are not already on Slack, please make sure to create your free members account on our website, theblackwomentech.com, and you create your free members account, which will give you access to a Slack where you can connect with all the individuals within the community, which is super key. But I think you find people at a different level of their career, and therefore you can exchange, share insights, opportunities, and so much more, which is really good. GTA Black Women Tech is part of a bigger network, and you can see here we are here on the left hand side, but you also have other initiatives, verticals, and geographies that you can be part of. If you're looking for TLA Africa or GTA Africa or TLA FinTech, please join these other groups so you can network and discover as many opportunities, and the more we can normalize our journey to inspire more people to be that Black women tech are excellent, which we are. What do we do essentially? One thing that we do, and people know us for, is our events. We do run monthly events in person and virtually. So if you missed one of our last in-person event, which was with Barclays, there'll be more exciting events coming up with different brands. Obviously, as we are growing, we're not just in London, but we're also in Ireland, as you can see the pictures of Ireland. And we opened in France in March 2024, which was super exciting. So if you're looking to a great excuse to come to Paris and come to our events, whether it is in Dublin or Paris, you are more than welcome. You will meet some fantastic women, and honestly, it's always a great vibe. Part of what we do is what is to create great content and changing mindset and really normalizing the stories of Black female excellence and so much more. So if you haven't had a chance to watch some of our YouTube videos, this is a chance to do that now. Obviously, some of you that are new, some of the new initiatives of this year, we've updated our Transition into Tech guide. I also invite you to watch one of our latest video events, should I say, which was Transition into Tech event with different women from Vid, Pinterest, Capgemini, and so much more. I really discovered what they had to share. It was fantastic. They shared some really good advice, which I really advise you to check it out and watch this video. You learn a lot if you try to get into tech. And you can also watch the action masterclasses, which are masterclass with individuals who share an expertise, such as the one that you're going to learn in this session. Also, obviously, if you're interested in saying, I want to be part and I want to be an active a member of our community. We are also still recruiting for brand ambassadors. We do not take more than 10 ambassadors per region. So it means that there's up to 30 spots left. Left, not 30 spots left. There's less than 30 spots left. And we advise you to join, and you can also receive a nice brand ambassador pack. Our collection came out last year, but I still would like to share it because if you haven't been looking for a new art piece to have in your house like this one, please do visit our website if you want to purchase it and for more information. Our book, what we're known for, is obviously for our publication, The Voices in the Shadow, that tells the stories of Black women in a UK and Ireland. The two first volumes are already archived at the British Library, which is super exciting. And obviously, this year is the launch of volume number 3. We're going a bit bigger, bolder, and more exciting. The theme for this year is lost history, so really addressing the stories of Black women throughout centuries that haven't been told. And also, what we're going to do differently is that we still distribute to schools across the UK and Ireland, but we're also going to distribute to libraries, which is super important. So, I don't know for you, but when I was young, there was no space to sit, so I used to go and sit at the library. And hopefully, a kid can be there and attend. So, the pre-order will be soon available. And as usual, we're going to have a fantastic festival. So make sure that you save the date, the 26th of October. For this to happen, obviously, we count on you. Nothing can happen without your support. So we want to make sure that you also, before we get to that point, make sure that there's also there's going to be a virtual history map. I can't tell you more about that, but this is coming. But the reason why I was talking about that, I want to talk about sponsorship. If your company is looking for a philanthropic project to get involved, please do share. I'm really counting on our community to be able to get there and achieve that. So please, we're looking for sponsors right now. So I'm counting on you to help us get the message across. So we are looking for sponsors. Also, you can visit our website. We have a lot of great members that are brand members that are part of our community, such as Barclays. Barclays has a number of initiatives across different spectrums, whatever apprentices, graduate, more senior level, transitioning to tech, and so much more. Really advise it, and it's the same thing as well for PlayStation. So please check out what those brands have to offer if you're looking for new vacancies. Guys, that's it for me. I look forward to seeing you very soon, and enjoy this amazing session with our amazing speakers who are going to provide you so much great value. And I will see you.
Great. So thank you so much for that. So I'll now go into introducing our panelists for today. And first one is Mo Oyetunji. Mo is a quality engineer in the medtech sector with a passion for empowering women to create the careers they desire and live purposeful lives. She speaks from personal experience, having transitioned into medtech after working as a materials and corrosion engineer in oil and gas industry for 12 years. Mo's mission is to encourage women in STEM to step out of their comfort zones and do it afraid. She's also dedicated to teaching and inspiring children about STEM subjects, delivering talks and presentations on exciting technologies. She's a board member of AFBE, Association of Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers in the UK, and more works to promote academic and professional excellence among students and professionals from ethnic minority backgrounds. In addition to her work in engineering, Mo is the owner of Asa West, a UK-based fashion retailer established in 2017. She's also the founder of the More Blessed to Give charity, which provides outreach and support for homeless men, women, and children, as well as financial assistance for higher education in Nigeria. Mo is the host of the 360 Lady podcast, which inspires and equips women to become the highest and healthiest versions of themselves. She's married and currently resides in Aberdeen, Scotland. And Mo is joining us from Aberdeen today. She promises it's very sunny up there. And Mo's presentation today is largely going to focus on her journey transitioning into tech. So welcome, Mo. Our
Thank you,
speaker
Sarah.
number two is Dorothy Simmons. And lovely Dorothy is joining us from Abuja in Nigeria. So we're already cutting across continents here. Dorothy studied IT management for her master's program, and she hadn't had any field experience in regards to tech engineering. 5 years later, she landed a job as a project manager, which gave her the boost to pursue a career in tech. Transitioning into being a project manager was no small feat, as it requires drive, relentless hours of study, and purposeful pursuit to success. She is a lead program coordinator at Renters, an organization that nurtures women in tech, and she has seen her skills spring up gradually and confidently, from communication and interpersonal skills to her ability to negotiate and resolve conflict, as well as dedication to a diverse group of team members. And Dorothy's presentation today will largely focus on um, mentoring and managing programs and development of women in tech. So, welcome, Dorothy.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Yeah. And our third speaker is Gertrude Western, who is speaking to us today from, I believe it's South Sweden. And Gertrude is a developer at Click with a Q and host of the Tech Girl podcast. She's passionate about making the tech industry more diverse and inclusive, so she uses her social media platform to advocate for diversity in tech as well as support and encourage minorities, especially women of color, to take up tech related careers. Outside of work, Gertrude enjoys doing yoga, reading, and spending quality time with her 3-year-old son. I believe she's taking on to doing some of that this very weekend as we speak. And she's going to be talking to us with the main focus on her transition story and best strategies for people transitioning. So if you're in the room this evening, you've made the right choice, you're in the right place, and we trust that more people are going to be joining us, so don't be discouraged by that. Take your notebooks out, take your pens out, and then get ready for the presentations. So finally, to introduce myself, I'm Karimi Kihato. I've been a member of GTA Black Women in Tech for about 3 years now. I was in the first volume of the book, and I transitioned into tech by joining um, a digital organization in a HR role. So I always say you don't need to be a techie and to code. And oh my God, thank you for Chat GPT and all those other. I don't now need to code, but I transitioned into tech within HR. So I've worked in HR for 18 years, mentoring Black women initiatives, coaching are very dear to my heart. And I have lived and had scars in my career for different reasons that most of you will be familiar with. And then my promise to myself is that other people will not, in my wake, have to go through the same. So my scars and battle wounds is going to lead to their success. So I'm very supportive of GTA Black Women in Tech. And I am a mother. I've got two children, a daughter who is 11 and a son who is 8. We also have a pet cat, Snowy, who is sat by me. And right now, I am just at the end of a career break and starting a new role in a FTSE 100 engineering and manufacturing company that's looking to do some huge work in digital transformation. So that's me. And we also have Marie, as I said, who is driving the systems and making sure everything works right. So without further ado, I'd like us to welcome our first speaker, please.
Thanks, Karimi. I'm just going to share my screen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yep, awesome. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. For those who don't know what we're joining for, I guess everyone would, but we're here to talk about tech engineering, careers, opportunities, and transition strategy. So I'm really going to focus more on the transition strategy because I just joined medtech industry. So a bit about me, my quotes that I sort of look into or live up to is the family is the first essential cell of the human society. We have the family, and then we have friends and relationships and communities, and then nations and world. So that's the first thing. But 3 things about me is that I love traveling. I love trying new things, food, hairstyles, like everything new, adventures, flyboarding, bungee jumping. I'm hoping to go skydiving soon. Second thing is that I'm passionate about encouraging young students, which you would have heard from Karimi. Thank you for that introduction. I host a podcast called the 360 Lady Podcast, focused on women again. I absolutely love women, as you can tell. And then I have a charity, which is based in Nigeria. And I have a business called Asha West because I love fashion. Now, I'm going to be talking about my journey through my squiggly career. And I say squiggly career because it's very squiggly, sort of like a squiggle, like a worm. And I'm going to start from growing up. So I grew up in Nigeria, West Africa, if you do know where that was. And up until when I was about 16. And right from time, I'd always had the passion for biomedical engineering. And back in the day, no one really knew what biomedical engineering was. Like we say medtech now, but then it wasn't called medtech. And speaking to my mom back then, my dad is late, my mom is a doctor, and I was telling her about, biomedical engineering, very excited. And everyone was just like, is it that you're doing medicine or you're doing engineering? Choose one, just pick one. And obviously, as African parents or mother, I had a lot of uncles. So they had an impact in what I had to do. So they said, you know what, just go do engineering and then we can sort the bio side of it afterwards. So in the midst of deliberating, I went to Ghana and I did biomathematical science just because I still wanted that bio aspect. But then I came on to University of Sheffield and I started this in 2007 and I did material science and engineering. But I loved the bio aspect so much that in my 3rd year, my final year, I did a project with tissue engineering. So I made scaffolds from polymers. So basically made a nerve to regenerate your nerve, like made a scaffold to regenerate your nerve, put in stem cells, different things. And that was fab. But then I went back to Nigeria because in Nigeria, there's something you do called National Youth Service, which you have to do for a year. So I went back to Nigeria, served in Shell, Nigeria. I'm sure you know the petrol station Shell, so I wouldn't bother explaining, but served there, which is oil and gas. And it was interesting because then it was very money driven. I saw the amount of money you can make in oil and gas. And I was like, there's actually money here. Like, this is what I want to do. So I got advised by people to take on a master's in Sheffield. So I did a master's in Manchester. So I did a master's in corrosion control engineering at University of Manchester, which got me even deeper into oil and gas. I mean, the passion for biomedical engineering was still there. And I always told people who would listen, like, it's my passion. I still want to do it. I don't know how. From then on, I moved to Aberdeen. So I worked at Can Offshore, which is oil and gas again. And even in then, like, I did it for about 3 years and I enjoyed it because I love learning as well. So for the first 4 years, I was learning and it was good. I was getting a lot of experience. But I still would, I actually started, I started from like 2017. I started applying to like medtech companies. But then I saw, look, I was a corrosion engineer at Can Offshore. And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm so deep down into oil and gas that I need to start thinking of how to transition out slowly by slowly. So I moved on to Baker Hughes, and I started doing materials because materials is very broad. You can actually transition to any company. So I started off there as a materials engineer. And then in 2020, lockdown, everyone knows what happened during lockdown. I started getting mentors, started off my podcast, just started doing things. And I got really uncomfortable. And I was saying to myself, like, how would I move out of oil and gas? So one of the things my mentor said was just go on LinkedIn. You need to start doing it very viciously. So went on LinkedIn, unashamed, started adding companies, messaging people, high following companies, medtech companies, and I came across someone who I went to school with in Sheffield. This was back in 2007. And I messaged him, I said, oh, hi, I see you work for a company I would love to work for. And he was like, oh, hi, long time. And from then on, I'm going to cut the story very, very short. A week after we got in touch, I got an interview, and a month after I got an offer. So, I got an offer. So that was how I transitioned in 2021. Now, that's my squiggly career. And I'm just going to quickly ask yourself, like, when you're transitioning, there's certain questions you need to ask yourself. Like, and that was one thing I did. First thing, why do I want to transition? Do I hate my job, or is it my boss? Or, for me, it was my passion. And I tell people this: if you want to transition, there are 3 P's. There's profit, there's profile, and there's passion. Profit is, I want to transition to make more money. Simple and plain. I'm just at a stage of my life where I need money, Mine was passion, because I'd always wanted to move into that sector. For profile, you probably see a fancy job that is going to make you more popular, make you more known, and that's why people move. So the 3 P's were important to me, and I did it for the passion. How am I going to transition? What are the routes to transition? Again, 3 E's. Experience. You have the experience to transition. Most times you don't have the experience and you have to upskill. Do I have the education, or do I have the exposure? Sometimes you have the exposure, you're meeting people, you're talking to people. So that's the route. How do you want to do it? Also MBA, that falls under education. A lot of times people say, do an MBA to sort of transition into something new. I didn't have the money for MBA, and I was blank, because MBAs cost like what, 7,000 and thousands, hundreds of 70K and up. So I knew that was not going to be my route, and I just kept talking. And again, the exposure, I was talking to people in that sector. When you want to transition, you have to be ready. Personal readiness. You have to be financially stable, because a lot of times when you transition, you might actually be starting from scratch, and that's just the plain truth. You need to be ready for that, step down. Also the industry outlook. I was in the oil and gas for a very long time. I would rarely ever tell people to transition to the oil and gas, because the oil and gas is very volatile. So you need to look at the industry outlook. Where is it at that point in time globally? And then the what can I offer? And I tell people this, just like a waiter, when you go into somewhere, you're holding a tray and you ask them, how can I serve? What can you do to that company? What can you give them? So those are the questions you ask yourself when you transition. And it's questions that I ask myself as well, like, how am I going to achieve this transition? Moving on to my next slide. Hopefully I can do this very quickly. I put them in four key tools that I used, and I'm sharing this. The first one is, who am I? Knowing who you are is so important. It's sort of like your foundation. Then there's vision, there's skills, and there's relationship. And I center that in different arrows, right? And under who am I, there's your personality traits. You need to know who you are. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? That also kind of determines what you're doing. I can't say I'm shy, I'm an introvert, and I'm a social media influencer. I don't want to comment. These are things you need to do. So you need to know yourself. The personality test, there's Myers-Briggs. I'm sure you guys would have heard of Myers-Briggs. Also, values and belief. So for example, I'm a Christian, that's my belief. I have values, those are sort of your foundations that even when the going gets tough, that these are your values and they're not changing. No one can change it, right? Like my values are family. My values, like I have family, I have growth, I have creativity, and I have collaboration. I love being around people, right? So those are the things I had to sort of remind myself, like, who am I? Their strengths, and everybody who knows me would know I'm an advocate of Gallup strengths. If you don't know Gallup strengths, I would advise you. I think it's so important, so key. There are 34 of them, but it sometimes tells you the top 5. It just sort of helps you understand who you are and amplify your strengths so that you're not just focusing on your weaknesses. And then the background experiences, everybody has an experience, everybody has a background unique to you. And the last one there was branding. What's the one thing you're known for? And if you're an influencer, whatever you are, what's the one thing you're known for? And at the point of transition, it's important to look at your brand. And if you have to rebrand or recreate your brand, then do that. Now, the second one there was goals and aspirations and vision, right? So goals and aspirations, it's important to have goals. They self-motivate you. It keeps you moving. But one thing I would say is not to focus on your goals. Have a strategy. How am I going to get there? Because I found a note. I actually found a Microsoft Excel sheet that I actually used back in the day. And I said to myself, like, I wrote this down back in the day. And I said to myself, like, I want to do biomedical engineering, right? And that was what I wanted to do. So I saw that and I thought, oh, wow, that was my vision back in 2005. So I did that. And that was one of the strategies, like always remembering this is my vision, this is my goal, this is where I want to be. And then the third one is skill. So identify your skill, transferable skills that you already have, develop yourself, do courses, training, certifications. Everyone knows lockdown, everyone was doing certifications and trainings. And the last one that was leveraging. So meet people, learn from people. What do you know that I can learn from? Because I think that's really important. I did a lot of that because I didn't have the skill to sort of jump into that sector. And it's important because you're new, you're fresh, you humble yourself and you learn these skills. The last one there was relationships, networking. I tell people, work your network. Don't let your network, like you need to actually work those network, use them, not in a bad way, but you need to use your network. And there are people, friends, associates, assignments, advisors that you need to build. And I tell people, mentors, sponsors, coach. So a mentor will talk with you, a coach will talk to you. I had a coach when I was transitioning, and it was very, very important for me because I needed someone to talk to me, to even remind me of, my vision. And obviously a sponsor would talk when you talk about you when you're not there, really. So it's important to have those people in your corner. There's something I wanted to touch on, which was relational intelligence. You have all these people, right? But it's important that you know where to place them, because everyone, your mom, your brother, they all have a place in your life, right? And that's relational intelligence. So relational intelligence is actually the ability to know and discern where to put those people. So those are the 4 key tools I used that helped me. And lastly, for me, I would give you this quote that says, your life is one story of transition. You are always leaving one chapter behind while moving on to the next. So it's important, with change, with transitioning, to remember these things and knowing that there are always people to help you. I almost want to picture a guy at the other side of the stone, standing there, just waiting that if he slipped, to just grab him. And that's where relationship comes in, your support system. For me, it was my husband. He was very supportive because I had to move to Cork. He was very supportive of the transitioning. My friends, when you're feeling down, your support system that would cheer you on to keep going. So those for me are the key things. And transitioning will not always be easy. But your vision reminds you, and also your values of who you are, why you're doing this. And if you remember when I asked that, the questions you ask yourself, why are you doing this? For me, it was my passion. I wanted to make impact. I wanted to save lives, because it wasn't really all about the tech side of it. It was also about the med tech side of it. I wanted to save lives. And for me now, I feel fulfilled being in this industry. And yeah, so that's my transition story, a squiggly career, but that's a little bit about me. So thank you.
Wow, that's just absolutely amazing. Such amazing, lovely gems and takeaways. I couldn't write fast enough. It's a good thing that this is being recorded so we can always play it back. So thank you so much more for that really amazing 15 minutes. And obviously, we will share your LinkedIn profile so that if people want to find out a little bit more, delve into your squiggly career and see what they can learn, then they can do that. So at this point, we're going to move on and invite our second speaker for the day, and that will be you, Dorothy.
Thank you so much, Karimi. Really, really excited. And thank you, Mo. I did learn a lot. I actually envy you. Oh my goodness. Well done. I'm super excited and proud of, your achievements. So hello, everyone. I'm going to be presenting my screen. Kindly let me know if you're able to see my screen. All right, fantastic. My name is Dorothy Simeon. I am the lead program coordinator for Wentas. One thing I am passionate about, working with Wentas, which is that we are able to nurture women in technology and provide the right kind of support for women in technology. We're a global community of women in tech, and we are really excited for every, mentorship cohort that we push out, and the feedback that we receive every single time is heartwarming. We absolutely love the work that we do, and that's why I'm really passionate about, helping everyone on this call to provide the right kind of insight that can help the next woman to bloom and grow in technology. So that's a little bit about me. The key takeaways from today would be, the first would be my story in building a successful career in tech engineering. The other will be the skills, qualifications required as a lead program coordinator, or in this case, a program coordinator. And then lastly, will be how to make that smooth transition into program coordination. So here's my story. I needed to choose the right tech field. I'm not a core tech person. I started out with, in fact, the story as to how I became, ended up in tech is really funny. So for the most part, I wanted to do something that had to do with law. However, I ended up going to my university. There wasn't much information as to, some of the courses that were available. And then I ended up having to choose business information systems. Now, as at that time, I had no idea what information systems was about, but I had an idea about business. So because of the familiar word, which was business, I tended to, lean into choosing business information system. It's really funny. However, I realized that I did enjoy, to an extent, studying business information systems. And when I graduated, it was a good report for me, which led me to study information technology management for my master's. I did that and I was successful. However, I noticed that I wasn't very in love with, coding and anything that had to do with me, with anything that really had to do with taking a lot of my time. Especially when it was something I didn't really enjoy. So for a long period, I really wasn't engaged in any opportunity that could help me, express myself, as is in regards with tech engineering. However, in 2019, I believe, I was opportuned to be in a class, and this was organized by my church. I'm a Christian. So we had a class that had to do with project management. And because I've always loved, projects and all of that, I decided that I wanted to join that class, and it enabled me to get more information about the role. Thereafter, the lady that organized or facilitated that, entire conversation, while in church, I reached out to her. I wanted her to be my mentor. And that takes me to the next step of my story, which is get a mentor. She became my mentor. She's a fantastic woman. Kemi was just amazing. She taught me everything that I needed to know, especially because the next year, so in 2018 was when the my church organized this event. And then in 2019, I got a job to be a project manager, and I had to manage a large project, that was worth a lot of money. But I needed help, and she was there. She enabled me to get the right sort of resources, as well as to advise me. So she was a fantastic sounding board, as well as to cheer me on, because there was a lot of time when I was in the midst of men. There was no woman at all. And if there was, she probably wasn't, core into the project. And so for the most part, Kemi was always there to let me know that, I did have support, and I was able to do this. So I did really enjoy the fact that before becoming a lead program coordinator at Ventus, my current organization, I enjoyed the benefits of a mentor. And this is where I say, you need to get a mentor. No man is an island. Trust me, you cannot do this alone. Hence why you need to get a mentor for yourself. The other will be staying positive and persistent all through my journey as a lead program coordinator, as well as a project manager. Um, Projects can be extremely tough, especially when there are people, especially when you're working with people are very funny. So you need to always come in with that positive mindset. You need to always be persistent in ensuring that your projects does complete is completed successfully. So for me, I needed to always remind myself in that note, along the line of every single project, even up until date. And so really, in a nutshell, that is my story. And this is how I have been led over time to become, the lead program coordinator at Ventus. But what are some of the skills and qualifications that you need? Communication is top notch. Communication, covers a whole lot of I'm really trying to find the words to use, whether it be nonverbal, whether it be verbal, orally communication, in every sphere, you need to have that skill. You need to be a fantastic communicator, because again, you're going to be speaking to, clients, you're going to be speaking to stakeholders, you're going to have to verbalize the mission, the goal, the scope of work, and all of that nitty gritty that has to do with a project. And so it is really important that you build that skill. It is the top at the list, in being a project manager or in being a product, or a program coordinator. The other will be multitasking. I cannot emphasize enough how much multitasking you will do as a program coordinator. A lot of times I see myself having to, having to complete different tasks at the same time, because the time is short. It's really not enough. A lot of times you tell yourself, okay, I have a to-do list. I'm able to work with ABC. However, the next second you look, and then the time is lost. So a lot of times I'm having to multitask my role and ensure that I am delivering on time. Time management is key as a program coordinator. And then lastly, it would be creativity. You must be creative. You must get the right resources. As simple as learning to design, being a graphic designer. A lot of times I'm always having to bank on Canva, because I'm trying to push out something that needs to be done, and I really cannot wait for one department to have this work done and all of that. So you need to be creative, whether it be in writing, whether it be while you are communicating, whether it be developing a particular skill that can help you bloom in that area of creativity. So it's really essential that as a program coordinator, you're able to create magnificent tools and materials that can help you as a program coordinator. So those are some of the key skills and qualifications that you need to progress as a program coordinator. And then how do you transition? The first will be examine your personality. And this for me would be, again, I know that Karimi had posted something that had to do with Myers-Briggs personality. It's really important that if you're not able to identify what sort of personality you are, you need to probably, you can use a Myers-Briggs personality tool to help you identify, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you an ambivert? Whatever the case is, it really does help because it would enable you to identify what role in tech should I be evolving in, or should I be placed, or do I find a lot of joy in working as a program coordinator or as a project manager. So I examine your personality because it will help you a lot. The other will be analyze your knowledge, your experience against the 10 areas of project management. So there are areas of project management. However, you need to analyze your knowledge. Are you good on scheduling? Are you good on, do you understand what projects tax management is, or as it has to do with stakeholder management? There's a lot that has to do with project management. And for me, I would say you need to figure out, where do I find my strength? Where do I grow? Where do I see myself growing in quickly? Again, we always say move out of your comfort zone, but I also believe that your comfort zone is the place that you mostly will thrive. So with my advice, I would say analyze your knowledge, your current knowledge, as well as your experience. So what do you know, and what can you put forward as a project manager? The other will be explore online and offline resources. There is Coursera, um, there is one that I normally use that I can't recall right now, but there are lots of online resources that can help you to breach the gap in any experience or skill that you're currently lacking in. So analyze what those experiences are, and then go on those website. Coursera is fantastic because it provides free resources, videos that you can watch, and then you can also get certified with the services that they provide. So it's really important that you figure out, what is it that I have my weak spot in, and then go on to all of these resources online, fish them out, and then build yourself and breach that gap as soon as possible. Lastly would be volunteering. Volunteering is a fantastic way to get to the top. Yes, you wouldn't get paid. In some cases, you may get paid with stipends. However, it is the learning in that position that is important, because volunteering would help you to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So for example, whether it be with project scheduling that I mentioned here, or whether it be being an assistant project manager, it is really important that you volunteer. The world really does need a lot of volunteers, because as much as you will get value, you are going to be providing value to that organization. And so that's pretty much it for me today. And that is my story, in transitioning into the tech world and the tech field. So yeah, thank you very much.
Dorothy, thank you so much. That was again amazing, and it just follows through what Mo shared with us. So thank you for drilling down to actually the skill set that's required, because
Thank you.
like jobs of today, I call them, not jobs of the future anymore, because the future is here. Project management is there amongst the top five. So, and the key skills you shared are pretty much transferable skills that people already might hold in other roles. So bringing this together and then looking at what you could be good at, and bam, you're in one of the most sought after tech careers or jobs. So thank you ever so much, Dorothy. Again, Marie has shared your LinkedIn profile, and whoever is on the call that wants to, look at your profile, follow you, maybe ask more questions offline, I hope that's something you'll be welcome to. And so we then move on to our third speaker. This is so good that I'm hoping there was more and more and more. And so I'd like to introduce Gertrude. So Gertrude, do you want to take the floor, please?
Yes, I will just prepare to share my screen, and please feel free to just, okay, I think you all see my, yes, perfect. All right. It's been really amazing listening to the other two speakers, Mo and Dorothy. I'm so inspired. I always thought my transition was crazy, but listening to you guys, I'm just like, yo, that is crazy. So thank you so much for sharing. And what can I add to that? I guess I just tell what it was like for me. Uh, my name is Gertrude Chilufya. Western is my adopted name. I'm a developer advocate for a company called Click. I also host a podcast called the Tech Girl Podcast, and I essentially get people that are working in tech, mostly those that have transitioned, simply to give people an opportunity to see themselves from different people and to try and get that sort of, oh, if I relate to this kind of if I'm sort of this kind of personality, what opportunities are there? Because having gotten into the tech field, I realized that there's so much that I didn't know. There were roles that I had no idea existed, and just creating that exposure of the different opportunities that are possible, because many other times that people will shy away from tech thinking everybody has to learn to code. Everybody sits all day and night looking at binary, and it's really not like that. It's a field that has different people, different personalities, and we're all needed in the field. And then I am also a DNI advocate, and I co-lead what we call the Black Alliance Employee Resource Group at our company. And that's just to encourage and support management in their DE&I related initiatives. So as I go along this talk, I will touch on why sometimes taking on such responsibilities helps you navigate your career and grow, because it's a point of opportunity. Like I said, a little bit about me. I am originally from Zambia. I moved to Sweden over 8 years ago to study for my master's in media and communication studies, and I was under the scholarship called the organization that provides this scholarship is called the Swedish Institute. I like to plug them because it's a really amazing scholarship where they provide literally everything. They give you a monthly stipend. They also pay for your travel. And while you're here, they give you lots of opportunities to travel around Sweden and other European countries for different conferences and events, and they sponsor all that. And this scholarship is available for people in the Balkans, but also very present in most African countries. And so if you have family, friends, or anybody that would like to study or explore studying in Sweden, I would highly recommend looking into the Swedish Institute. It is not sponsored at all. It's just that I did go through the process, and that's why I know. I'm a mother to a 3-year-old son. So much to say about that, but it's been amazing so far. Like I said, I work as a developer advocate, but I was not, until recently, I was not in the software development kind of field. I come from a communications and marketing background. And my transition story starts in 2020. I guess 2020 gave us a moment to all just sit down and reflect. My own reflection also came at a time where my son had just been born. So If you know anything about Sweden, it's their generous parental leave. So I had more than a year to be home, which was paid. And so I was thinking, okay, when I do get back, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue on my marketing journey? Can I look elsewhere? What's going on? And so my transition story started from thinking of what is my current situation and what do I see as my future going forward, looking at how marketing for most companies, whenever there's a bit of instability, usually marketing is the first to be downsized. And just having had a son, I didn't want to be in a position where my role is sort of the afterthought, where the developers were almost first class citizens. And I was like, I need to be part of that club. How do I get there? And that's when I did a 16-week boot camp with an organization called Pink Programming. I guess an equivalent in the UK would be Code First Girls, and the different other uh, initiatives that help girls to learn to program. During this time, I was going by the quote, I cannot afford the luxury of waiting for things to happen to me, so I need to make them happen. And that is how I started. Oh, we're not moving slides. Oh, there. So both Mo and Dorothy have attributed to ways in which you can look at creating a strategy around your transition. Back then, the only thing that I had was my situation, which was I was in marketing. I saw that it was mostly disposable. I had a son, I needed stability. And so I was focused on what skills do I need that will, even if I do get into a work and I am downsized, my skills are so highly valued that I could easily get a job within the next 3 to 6 months at most. And at that time, I also started to see a lot of people talking about, oh, I transitioned into tech, just 12 weeks, I've moved to a 6-figure salary, da, 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 all those things. I was like, okay, that is great. If you guys can do it, I probably can do it too. And that's how I started to look into the different ways in which I could do this. Again, assessing my situation, I came to a crossroads of I could either go back to university. Studying in Sweden is free. So I could go back to university and start to do that again. But then I would really take a paycheck, and I wasn't ready to do that. And then there was boot camps, other boot camps that were like super expensive. And though they offer payment programs where you go through the boot camp for free and then pay when you get the job, which you will, it's a guarantee within 6 months, at least here in the Nordics. I didn't want to do that because I was like, we pay high taxes. That's one. I still have black tax to take care of. And then I should be paying you guys. No, that doesn't sound right. So I went for the middle ground, which was the program that I had talked about, which was not so expensive. And also it was structured because learning on my own was not the best of options, because I knew I might not be disciplined enough to go through that route. And so I looked at what skills do I have? What do people say I'm good at? What do I know I am good at? What are the projects that I have done that have been so successful? And how can I leverage that in order to get started? At this time, I had already worked for enough software companies to know the sort of classic roles of developers, and I related closely to the front enders, and it felt like a natural flow because I was already working in marketing, and so you would work with the developers. If you're working on I worked first for a web app where it was like a security platform. So then I worked closely with them because I needed sometimes content to go on. I needed a lot of things. So then I would sort of sit with them. We had to work together. And so I naturally leaned towards that because it felt like I had an idea. And so I didn't have to struggle a lot in the learning process. And that's why I chose front end. And then when I finished my bootcamp, I had obviously been hit by reality that I will probably not get six figures, because in the Nordics, even though there's like good enough salaries, they are not as high as in the Americas. So that six figures is a dream. I have to rethink that. And then the other thing was, even if I would get a job, 16 weeks of programming is not enough to show my capabilities. I have to build a portfolio and all those things. And then at this point, I was already really tired of being home with my child. I sort of regret that now. I should have just taken the entire time, but at the time it felt like I have been sitting doing nothing for a really long time. And it was the first time in my life where I was not either doing school and work and all those numerous things that most of us do. So then I knew that I wanted to start working immediately. I did not have the patience of trying to build up my portfolio. So my first role, I decided that it was going to be very closely related to marketing, but at the same time, you have to be like on top of the marketing food chain, which means you have to understand code and you can work with it. And where were the opportunities? This was in things like if you can make integrations, right? If you're able to do, let's say, an Instagram integration, going through API documentation and those kinds of things. So then I knew, okay, you're a marketer, but at the same time, you're sort of a developer. Like developers would just throw the work that they don't want to do at you, but the marketers will be happy because then you're progressing. You're progressing their work. So then I found that sweet middle spot, and those were the roles that I looked for. I looked for marketing developer roles. I looked for customer success roles, because as well, you're taking solutions and then trying to explain them. So just getting the best, merging the best of both my worlds. And so I took on the marketing developer role and eventually sort of got headhunted for the role that I am in now, because I had worked so much with integrations and APIs, and they needed a developer advocate who would continue strengthening and championing the APIs that they have created. And so I moved into that role as well, which now amplified the skill set of being a developer. So now I have the opportunity to slowly um, build on my technical skills and coding skills, because now I'm looking at a really huge code base, and then I have to work at creating examples for external people. How can I create documentation for people that are just getting started, and all those kinds of things. So to be successful as a developer advocate, like everybody else has said, communication is super important. Like, don't underestimate the value of your ability to communicate, because many are the times that people are good at writing code, but then they cannot explain it, and maybe that's where your strengths will come in, and then you will be uplifted in that way. And also, as we have seen, Karimi has said that the future is now, where you're able to, you sometimes you don't even need to know how to code for you to create an app, for you to do all those tasks that were highly technical, because you can find this already. However, if you're going to explain or sell this solution, whatever you create, you will need to lean on your communication skills, your people skills as well, because communicating is one thing, but are you relational? One of the previous speakers talked about, I believe it was more, she talks about relational intelligence. That is also super important, because in any engineering team that you work with, there'll be different people, different personalities, and so your relational intelligence will come in very handy. I will give an example of the different tasks that you have to do as a developer advocate. At any given day, you could be writing a blog post, you could be giving a conference talk, you could be actually testing the code that the developers have written, it could get frustrating. How do you go back and give feedback about what you have found? How can you communicate a better way of using certain tools, and maybe saying, maybe this is not the best tool for us right now, we should consider this. And so you have to have that relational intelligence as well as emotional intelligence, because you're dealing with different people, different characters, and that will help you a lot. Patience is also good, because not everything will work when you want it to. You would have gotten people excited about an API that will be exposed at a certain time, and then when it's time to ship it, it's not happening. Somewhere in production, it goes kaboom, and then you'll be the person that has to tell the rest of the world that actually what you're waiting for will not happen. So you need to find strategies in which you, because as a developer advocate as well, you're the front person. So you're the person that the externals see, and you're the one that will get the heat most of the time. If something, I mean, the community is very friendly, but if something doesn't go well, you're the person that's getting the heat. And then also there's management on top of that. So you need to know how you can work with the rest of the team. If they say they're going to ship this, maybe the best thing to do is not create a lot of hype around a product that's not yet ready and create the hype afterwards. So then I take on the marketing skills that I had used, that I previously had, in order for me to then talk about launches and releases and things like that. And then once you get into that role, you obviously have to start looking at, okay, or at least I'm the kind of person where when I attain a certain goal, I'm already looking at, okay, what's next? So the minute I got in here, I was already looking, okay, what does it mean? What are my options for growth and progression? How will it look like in the next 3 to 5 years? And there comes a point where you start growing. So you come from being like a junior developer advocate to a developer advocate, to a senior developer advocate, to maybe a director of developer relations, and so on and so forth. And then you might reach principal developer advocate, or principal developer relations, or you could get to vice president. But not all companies have that, because developer relations is fairly new. So usually when you get to director level or senior level, most people either find themselves going into people management, product management, or maybe going back into software engineering. So you have to see and assess where you will see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years, and you start to position yourself for those kinds of tasks and responsibilities. And it's a kind of role where you touch upon so many stakeholders that it gives you an opportunity to simply look over the shoulders of people that are doing it before you, and decide whether that's for you or not. And then another, yeah.
Gertrude, can I request we wrap up, because we'll have question
Yes.
time, and it's
Yes.
really interesting, and I loved everything that you're sharing. But just for the interest
Absolutely.
of time,
Yes.
just maybe a final wrap up, and then we'll go to panel questions, and then you can expound more. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I have already talked about how to get started. Something that I can emphasize is looking into trends and challenging yourself. So if AI is what is trending, how can you position yourself in that trend, or do you have to position yourself in that trend? Because it doesn't make sense to hop on all trends. And on that, talking about opportunity, I live by this quote as well. Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. This has helped me coming into this world of software engineering as an outsider, and in the beginning thinking, oh, maybe I'm not like them, and maybe I cannot do A, B, C, D, but don't let that interfere with what you can do, which are the skills that you already have. And that was the end. If you want to find me, that's my contact.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. And I really hate that I had to sort of give you a nudge.
That's okay.
It's all from a very good place. It's all from a very good place, because
I
I've
know.
absolutely learned so much. And for those that have joined us, I mean, I know it's dinner time and you've all joined at different times. And thank you so much for being here. And this has been recorded. So if you missed any of the intros, we had something from Flavilla for GTA, what's happening, what's coming our way in terms of events, you know, the third edition of Voices in the Shadow. So make sure you follow up when Marie sends an email, and you can watch back the beautiful sort of advice, these just pure gems coming through. So at this point, I believe we're going to open up to panel questions. So there's some questions we already had for each of our panelists, but do use the chat and put in any other questions. Actually, we are a lovely little cozy team. So, you know, we will be probably able to answer quite a few questions. So then, thank you so much, everyone. Are we ready for questions? We'll start with a question to Mo. And the question is, in your experience as a female engineer, what tends to hold women back in scaling their career ladder? And what in your advice, or what is your advice on how to overcome the typical challenges? So in your experience.
Thanks, Karimi. For me, my experience, I would say one thing is imposter syndrome. And it's a really weird thing because, like, with imposter syndrome, you don't know other people are experiencing it. You think you're the only one, but every single person experiences it at some point in their life at different stages. And with that, because I transitioned from being a corrosion engineer to being a materials engineer, I felt it. I transitioned from being the oil and gas industry to the medtech industry. I felt it. And I would say the first thing to overcome this is recognizing that you are not alone. Everyone experiences at some point in their life. And the second thing I would say there is that when you think about the imposter syndrome, they are thoughts. Thoughts are seeds, and the more you water them, the more they grow. So be it having that support system, your friends who tell you, you know, you're amazing, don't think that, you know, just cheering you on, family, friends, you know, it's important to have that support system around you to overcome it. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's great. That's one thing that is synonymous with most of us, and just talking about it, and you know, the saboteurs, or what I like to say are joy thieves. You know, I want to do this, but this little voice, we just need to quieten them down. So whilst we are speaking to you, maybe you can also answer the second question, which is, right now the global technology industry is going through a massive labor market crisis, if you like. We've all seen the headlines, or we've seen on LinkedIn horror stories about people being cut off from work, and not even by small companies that are not known. You know, the big tech companies are doing it as well. So lots of job cuts and redundancies. So it is widely reported as well, and unfortunately, that this is hitting minorities, you know, a lot more than other people. So there's massive impact and job losses. So what advice would you give to someone who is still interested in transitioning into a tech role right now, despite the obvious challenges? Obviously, hoping we will weather the storm, but what would your advice be?
Thank you for that question. And as you were talking, I remembered, if anyone has watched Scandal, Olivia Pope's dad always used to tell her, you need to work twice as good as them, referring to, you know, non-Black people or and with working twice as hard, you need skills. And I think I said in my presentation, you need to identify the skills you have, because they're always transferable skills, but you need to be aware of the global trends. ChatGPT is in, and it's going to be in for life. You know, there's AI, there are different things, but it's identifying the skill you have, but not just identifying the skill you have, but developing yourself. I know the speakers already said it, do courses, do certifications, do trainings, but also leverage on other people's skills. Have a sit with your mentor, have a sit with your coach, you know, what do you think I should learn, just read stuff. Knowledge is power, and it, makes you prepared for whatever challenges will come, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Mo. So we'll move on to other panel questions for Dorothy. So Dorothy, question is, how can individuals with a non-tech background break into tech engineering field? And what, I think you talked about transferable skills already. So maybe just, if you don't have those skills already, what can you do about it? Where can you get those skills?
Right. So that is a two-part question. And the first will be, how can individuals with non-technical background break into the tech engineering field? And the textbook response will usually be understand that there are several roles. I mean, there are so many roles in, technology, but you need to understand this in order to help you break into the tech field where your strength really lies. The other will be consume as much information as possible, from current tech innovations to current trends that are, trending, if I could use that word, and also attend or listen into podcasts. There are also news outlets that are readily available that can help you. So from TechCrunch to Quora, those are fantastic resources that can help. And then finally, I will say, if you're able to attend events, I know, for example, at GTA, you do have tech events or events in general that can help women. And so you need to do this, attend events related to tech industry. And maybe lastly, I'll add by saying, get a mentor. I cannot emphasize this, but please get a mentor. It helps you to, gain acceleration into the field, as well as, to constantly network with people and get the right information that you need to that industry. I hope that answers the question.
Does anyone in the panel have any, by the way, as Marie said, feel free to add your own questions. So I'm just looking at the chat to see if there's any follow-up. So a second question for you, Dorothy, is what role does networking, and I know you've just touched on events and networking comes close anyway, what role does networking and building connections with like-minded professionals help individuals advance in their careers in tech engineering? So from your own experience, I know you've talked about mentors, but there's a whole community. I call it form a tribe, form your tribe. You want to travel into one direction, find other people you can walk towards that direction with. But anyway, what's your take on it? Networking and building connections and all of that amazing stuff.
So I did mention during my presentation that no man is an island. What this means for me is that you cannot do it alone. And this is why it's really important that you get the right kind of people, whether it be colleagues, whether it be a mentor, whether it be, that man, that woman that has done that, that has been there to enable you accelerate into the field as quickly as possible. So networking is one of the strategies that you can use to excel more quickly while you are in the tech industry. And one thing I love about people in the tech industry that there's so many people that are willing to help. So many people that are, at the top of their toes and saying, hey, do you need help with this? Or I can help you with this. Whether it be having, a chat with someone virtually, we're in a global village right now, or you're able to have a coffee with someone, you need to, like Mo had mentioned, desist from that imposter syndrome as you mostly can in order to be able to network with people and get to the top as quickly as possible.
Thank you again, Dorothy, for giving us your sort of view on this, which I totally agree with. I'm an HR person who works in innovation and digital tech, and I can tell you that the amount of events on AI, machine learning, and just general tech events I attended and was the only HR person in the room, and they would look at me like, "Did you just say HR?" again, or are you, but just get in there. There's loads to gain from it. So then we move on to questions for Gertrude. And your question, Gertrude, is you're very passionate about the importance of diversity and inclusion. So, what role does ED&I play in the tech industry, and why do people keep missing the memo? Why? Why are we still educating people on the importance of DE&I in 2023?
I think I'll start with the last part, which is why do people miss the memo? I like to believe that we all have good intentions, and sometimes it's our unconscious bias that leads us to the decisions that we make, which ultimately impact people of diverse backgrounds. And then to move on to the first part, which is why am I passionate about it? Having worked in technology, I see that often at the times that we're late by ourselves as a person. We've seen videos of how sometimes face recognition does not work well for Black people when it comes to like some of those automated machines and vending stuff where they don't work for people of color and all those things. Voice recognition has been an issue for me, where when I speak in English, maybe my African accent is more prominent. I'm not understood when I speak in Swedish, I guess. Then it's just too confusing, and I just cannot use voice when I'm driving or something like that. So it's because of things that impact my daily life that make me want to say we need to make the space more inclusive and have more people of diverse backgrounds on the table when they make decisions about products and solutions.
I really love that answer. I think one thing why I'm very passionate about diversity in tech and in my HR role, as I speak to execs, I talk to them about who are you building for the future or for now. You're
Yes.
not building for one type of person,
Mm-hmm.
you're building products for the world. And I totally know, I've been in the era, I've lived in the age of the racist hand dryer, which you had to pick a white napkin, and I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
so that it could work. Thank
Mm-hmm.
God those days are gone, but then there's still a lot of
Yeah,
stuff that is
there's
still
still a lot.
built not for all of us. It is not inclusive enough. So that's a great answer. And my second question is, so what would your advice be to organizations in terms of embracing diversity, embracing people who want to transition into careers in tech? I mean, it's the one area we're constantly seeing. There's still a war for talent,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
still a lot of roles that are open,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
across the world. But then there's still a lack of inclusion or people being embraced. So, what would your advice be to organizations generally?
So to organizations generally, I would say they need to walk the talk, because many other times, especially after 2020 with the George Floyd, almost all organizations came out and gave a statement and things like that. But look at us 3 years from now, how many of those organizations and companies have held to those statements that they made? So number one is you need to walk the talk. If you're going to say you're diverse and inclusive, don't just plaster people of diverse backgrounds onto your web pages and stuff like that. You need to actually be hiring those people. What's your hiring process? Are you putting into consideration people of diverse backgrounds? Do you have programs about like maybe return to work? Do you have programs for minorities and all those kinds of things that will help us attain an equity level? Because equality is really not the best way to go about it. We need to think about it from an equity perspective. Yes. And that is
I
why I'm very active in the employee resource group, because then you have access to top management and you can actually speak about these things openly and safely.
I love it. Be the change you want to see. Speak up even when you're
Exactly.
afraid. Say it. Tell them what they call them out.
Mhm.
Rainbow washing is, I mean, what's all that performative practices? Tell
Yeah.
you now, we could have a whole field day talking about this. I mean, HR and marketing are very good at branding, and then none of that is
Yes.
actually. So walk the talk. So actually,
Mhm.
just to, we still have a few minutes on the panel,
Mhm.
and I don't know if anyone's got a question as I wrap it on here. I guess the question is, how do we uh, hold those organizations accountable to make sure that they are walking the talk?
Firstly, you need to look at, do they have a system or process in place in which you can safely have these conversations? If they don't, that's a problem, probably a red flag, but hopefully they do. And then you have to go through the process. But if you're still not being heard, I hate to say this, but it's really hard to make people change, and you might not be in the right place at that time. And then do they create a safe space for people coming from minorities or other diverse backgrounds within the teams? There've been times when the guys will be like, oh, like when there's something going on, oh, today we need to shower because girls are coming. Hello, there's girls already on the team. There's me. What do you mean? You know, so things like that. Like, how can you just ensure that everybody is included, even in the small talk, and they can feel safe?
Fantastic. I love that. So anyone that's joined and has a question, I can see someone's asking for the LinkedIn contacts for our panelists. So Marie, if you'd want to just highlight or share those again for those who've joined. So Ivy, that will be shared. Does anyone else have a question at all for the panel? I guess there must be. Eva, you are in MedTech. Do you have any question? No? Okay, so that wraps up the sort of questions we had prepared for the panel. And again, if you do have any other questions, reach out to them and, don't hesitate. We are here because we're forming a tribe for ourselves, through GTA and network to really be here for each other and support each other. So you've had firsthand experiences of 3 amazing women who have transitioned into careers in tech. I mean, as quickly career for more, Dorothy a career into project management, which she's enjoying thoroughly and doing a lot of work in encouraging women into tech. And Gertrude as well, in Sweden, where it's a very different world to maybe what we know in the UK, for instance, for reference, and running her own podcast, as is more, just thinking about that future talent as well, so amazing stuff. So thank you so much. So I bet now we are at the point in the on today's virtual event where we were going to go into breakout rooms, but given the number of us attending, we think we're just going to do the breakout conversations, if you like, or discussions within the main room. Yeah, so we are not going to break out. So there was 3 topics, a message, I believe, from.
I want to thank everyone for joining this evening. It's been incredible to hear your insights, your journey. It's been inspiring, and the obviously discussion topic that we just had, absolutely incredible, amazing. Thank you, Karimi. And in the chat, I've just dropped the link to our upcoming events. Again, we appreciate you all, and we hope that you have an absolutely wonderful evening. Thank you for joining.